Good evening all. You're welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to look at installing a ceiling fan, the ceiling mounted fan. But it's not the typical ceiling mounted fan that the big one with usually not the traditional one. This one is it's going to be very very discreet once it's mounted. So this is what it looks like. It's not very big, but it's powerful. It spells about 350 cubic meter of air per hour. And always remember that when you're mounting an extractor or fan, ventilator fan, should mount it. The source of the air should not be up to 50 degrees centigrade, and also you don't have to mount it where the heat exchanger, near the heat exchanger, so that a fresh breeze can come in. Also remember that to isolate the system where you're going to connect the power. So this came like this. This is the connector box, and this is the motor. The motor of the fan is here. The connector box has some Phillips screws, which if you remove them, when it's removed, you see the connector. So here's a connector that has 3 wires. These wires has a section of 2.5 square millimeters, and it has earth. And in the center we have phase in the center, and we have neutral. The blue one is neutral, the brown one is the phase. And always make sure you connect it correctly. And then we're going to have to, it does not come with any other thing, it just came like this. So we have the diffuser. So this one kind of stays inside the roof with this one. Stays inside the roof. No, this one stays inside the roof. This one stays inside the ceiling, and then this one comes from on top. This stays flat on the ceiling, and then in the interior of the house, the interior of the room, and this will cover the blades of the fan and also beautify it. So this is the diffuser. The diffuser stays in, whereas the motor stays inside. But in between, we're going to have to mount a switch whereby it can be turned off and on, because that's the only way to do it. So it can be turned off or on whenever one chooses to do it. So off we go to start. For that, we're going to have to need a switch that will interrupt. The only thing the switch has to do is that it just has to interrupt the earth. No, it has to interrupt the phase. So when we cut off the phase, there will be no power when we switch off. Just like the light, to flicker it off and on. And then we're also going to put a fuse. Going to put a fuse so that to protect it. So now we know that this one has 220 to 240 volts. Is single phase, 50 hertz. It does not say how many amps it consumes. With my glasses. So we have to look at all these things before we proceed. Have to look at the characteristics of what we want to install. It's very important, and read the instructions. So for that, we're going to have to cut a hole of this diameter. This inner one has a B. Diameter is about, I think it's 203. This is 203 millimeter. It's supposed to be the diameter. That's the diameter. So we're going to cut a hole so that I'm going to cut a hole around there. See, I'm going to cut a hole in the ceiling so that we can reveal here. From here, this will rest on the ceiling, this part will rest on the ceiling, this part will rest on the ceiling. Well, this place has to be visible so that we can tighten this one to it. Tighten this one to it, and then finally we can cover it with this one. And this has to be, when it's maintained, the dust might be accumulating here. It has to be, can be taken off and so put in soapy water, and it will be on you again. All right, let us proceed. So I found the perfect switch for this because it's going to be in an industrial setting, and this is waterproof. It's waterproof switch. This is what we're going to use to turn this on and off. So we're going to do some trunking. Just put a pipe. Put a pipe here, a retain pipe, to go in here. We'll take it to the roof, and that's where we'll take the connection. Connect it to the where the cable will go to. Cable will go through the pipe, and it will come in here, and then you can turn this on and off from here. I'm going to mount this one on the wall where we're in the area where we intend to, not too far away from this. So welcome back. So the easiest way to drill a hole in the ceiling for our ceiling mounted fan is to use the drill kit. This is this has to be attached to a drill, and then we'll make the hole in the ceiling. And this is a bigger one that can be used to drill a hole in the ceiling. We also have another one here. This is I think this is 52 millimeters, and it's too small. It's too small when we compare it to the diameter that we want. So we don't have the right tool for this now. So we have to improvise. So we have to improvise because we have to make a hole in the ceiling that corresponds. So I was looking. The best way to do this is to get use a compass and take the measurement from the diameter, you take the measurement of the radius, and you go round on a paper to be able to get out the mark, the measurement you want. So if you get a compass, put one in the center, in the axis, it's in the center, and then you put the other one, the pen or the pencil, at the measurement, the length from here to here, the radius, and then you go around the paper to transfer the measurement to the ceiling, and then you can cut it with a jigsaw. But I do not have I do not have a compass at hand right now. So I've looked at this bucket. I looked at this bucket, and it kind of fits, you know. So it kind of fits where the diameter that I want to cut. So I'm going to transfer it to this carton, which will help me. This carton, which will help me to transfer the measurement to the ceiling. So, and this is something anybody can do. You know, something anybody can do. So, if I put the bucket here, go in the center and get the measurement that I want. And I'll trim it off with the scissors so that I can transfer this to the ceiling and make that hole in the ceiling, you know. So it's important that we get the right measurement, and we can do this twice. You can make mistakes. It's better for it to be small than to be big. So that's the hole we've made. Now I'm going to have to trim it around with the scissors, and we'll go from there. That's been trimmed, and I think we have the measurement that we desire. So we can now go and transfer this the measurement, the diameter here. We're going to transfer it to the ceiling now and start the installation process. So it just has to cover this hole, and this one will rest on the ceiling. This one's still. Okay. So it covers it like this. It's covering all the holes that you want it to cover, because this is going to be attached to the diffuser. So even if we cut it in the ceiling and the line is not very straight, because we're going to use a jigsaw to cut it, even if the line is not very straight, the diffuser will help us to cover the error. But we try not to make the error to come out too much, so that the diffuser will cover all this diameter, and cover any error that we might. I mean, if it's not very straight, the diffuser will mask it. So we go now to install the wiring. Well, we will mount this one first, and when we mounted it well in the right position, we'll do the wiring. So transfer the measurement to there. So now I'm going to cut it with, first of all I'm going to start with this one, make a hole, then I'll use the jigsaw, use the jigsaw to finish. If it's not perfect, I can always use a file to make it smoother. So I've done the first cut, and there was a mistake because we made a cross beam there, and I've had to go up the roof to find the center of this one. So I'm going to have to patch that one up again and do the rest, and put the ceiling fan on this one. So I've cut it down with the jigsaw. I've cut it roughly where I want it to be. So now I'm going to file it. It's roughly where it should be. So I'm going to use a file. Did this with finished it with jigsaw. First it was this size. Cut it this size, and then I use the drill to cut it at this size, and I use the jigsaw to expand it. This side I'm going to have to patch it up. So I built some error. There's a cross beam there. So now I'm going to file the edges, and with the file, like I mentioned before, it's better to cut it less than what you need than to cut it more than what you need. This way I can amend it slowly. So let's carry on. Like I said earlier, the hole is not perfect. You see, I put the fan in, So long as you can get these screws and the hole is not too big. See, it's not too big so it has support all around. The fan has support all around. But if the hole is not perfectly round, because we do not have the right tools to get it perfectly round, as we were able to get around perfectly round hole there. Though we had some obstruction. But since we cannot be able to get the same perfect, we cannot get it perfect here, it's better for the hole to be smaller. So it is here, but we have the screws outside. And when we place the support is going to cover all the areas that we have. See, just have to tighten this one up. If we tighten it up, and then it's going to take away, it's going to cover off, it's going to blot out, it's going to mask the area. It's not going to be visible. So I'll do it now.